What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you. And welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm gonna be talking about the moon in Aries in the 10th house. And this is, I think, a pretty cool one for the moon to be in. Now, when we talk about that good old moon, the nature of the moon is really one closely tied in with the body. Think about all the things that you feel, from just all the stuff that's going on to the body, from like just the fluctuation of temperature to the fluctuation of emotions, all of those types of things, those feelings that changes just like the moon. That's going to be some of the things that the moon signifies. It's very closely tied into the home space as well. It can be associated with the mother and how you, or that primary kind of like nurturing figure that you know in your life. The moon can also be really kind of closely tied into just like how we again want to be nurtured and how we learn how to nurture people. That's going to be some of the ways that the moon can show up for people, and even how we relate to even like kind of like the environment and things can be really closely tied in with the moon. Now, when you talk about Aries, Aries is ruled by Mars, and they are the cardinal fire sign, and they're active or yang in nature. And when you think about Aries, I mean, they are literally just will, just the will, just doing. That's a really kind of, it's not really a thinking sort of sign. It's not to say that Aries isn't intelligent, but it's a more so just like a, when that feeling of inspiration comes, there's no time, like, why wait till tomorrow? Why wait till later? Let's do it right now. Let's just do the thing, make that stuff happen. Aries is the go-getter, and it's not always aggressive. I think that's, you can't stop the Aries, and whatever that looks like. Even when you think about it in like the northern hemisphere, how that Aries season represents the spring, the plants, they're not just like making these mad declarations, but you do see when they're coming through and the plants are growing. So that's how I imagine Aries energy. It's one of those, that's that force that once it's going, it's going. So we love Aries energy as far as like it's a motivating, pioneering, I think kind of trailblazing, inspiring, energy. One, if you need something to, yeah, kind of stir the fires, kind of poke that, that initial spark, that's Aries. I love that energy. And then when you think about the 10th house, this is the strong house. This was known as the midheaven. And I work with whole sign houses, so the midheaven may fall either in the ninth house, 10th house, or 11th house. Sometimes extremes can be the 8th or the 12th, depending on your location, but the whole 10th house itself is going to be the midheaven there, and it's going to be one of the angular houses. It's a very prominent house when we're talking about the 10th. And some of the themes that it's going to represent are going to deal with like career, any sort of like advancements or your ambitions, what you want to achieve or master. This can deal with like your reputation, how you're seen, your kind of your public role in society. It also can deal with like superiors and things like that. So when you're working with this placement, a couple things to consider. One, you would have a Cancer rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to Mars, because Mars is going to be responsible for this house, and it's going to import the themes of this in the fifth house, which deal with like children, pregnancy, pleasures, hobbies, creativity, sexuality, and things along those lines. And then the moon is going to be responsible for your first house, which is really nice. It deals with like the life, the body, the health, and the beginning of all actions when you think about that first house, and it's going to import those themes to the 10th. So some things to talk about this kind of right off the bat, considering that the moon, again, is really closely tied into the body, and that the moon rules your body, essentially. This one, making sure to take care of the vessel, being in good health, having that good relationship with the body, because that could be something where, with the moon being in the 10th, it's really prominent. It's something that's being seen. And so this could be where, you get recognized for that. Just something on the base level, just by how well you take care of yourself. Or maybe there's like a certain, just like, routine that you have. Or this could just maybe even be, maybe there's just something physically about you that just really kind of stands out, that the moon kind of, that's really kind of prominent there. So that might be something. The moon can deal with like the countenance, the facial expression. So I would think that this could be someone maybe, maybe having like a good sense of humor. And I could see that, like, maybe I was getting like comedian vibes with that. That could be like a thinking about just like career things. Just because I think the moon is, again, really good with the masses, with the people. I just think that there's like a real adaptability with the moon there. So that's just like a little sidebar there. But I think anything that, considering how closely tied in the moon is with the body, doing something maybe health related, maybe you work as like a, maybe you want your career to be like something like a fitness coach, for example, maybe where you're leading different groups, like a spin class, or maybe host like a yoga class or something along those lines. Maybe you do even like a cooking thing, that's, we think about how we nourish the body, foods really closely tied in with that. So even like a chef, that could be even something, or working where you're cooking for, again, I'm thinking about the moon as far as like just like large groups of people, but just like cooking for people in general. Nursing, the moon's really kind of closely tied in with that as far as like taking care of things. There could be that very motherly aspect, could be something that is very prominent in you. Maybe again, it could be working as a nurse, working in, I can see this working in even just like you just like working with people just in general. Maybe even doing something with homes, for example, with the moon ruling the houses and things like that. This might be something where maybe, and hopefully that was something that was nurtured in you kind of early on, those kind of ambitions and things. Maybe you had like a parent, maybe specifically like a mother who was in some sort of prominent role, whether it be, and that doesn't have to be just like in like a famous sort of way, that could be just very prominent in their role that they're doing. So maybe, wherever they happen to be, have their careers in, maybe that was something that was, maybe important, maybe something that was, hopefully, maybe that was something that was really kind of fostered in you, trying to figure out what is the thing that you want to do. Where do you feel that you were meant to do? What do you feel called and inspired to do? I think that would be very important for this placement, considering that, again, that ruling that first house, that's the beginning of everything. That's how you initiate from there. And so that may not even be the problem with this placement. The initiating may not be the hard thing with all that kind of the moon ruling these cardinal placements, but it may be just like sustaining that, especially if you're one that maybe doesn't have a lot of fixed placements. That might be something where, that might be something to work with. Maybe you find yourself kind of shifting careers, and that's, that might be even something that be in the cards there. And I don't think that that's necessarily necessarily a bad thing. It may just be, make sure that you're able to take care of yourself. But otherwise, I don't see the problem having a number of things that you're doing. And this, when we're talking about careers too, like it doesn't, the 10th house is more than just that sort of like what you want to accomplish, but it could be just like maybe you want to be a parent. That could be something that you're recognized for. That's another thing that this placement kind of gives me there. Maybe even doing something with the moon can deal with like wanderings or kind of like ships and things. So maybe doing something with like, I'm thinking like a either like shipping or maybe something that has to deal with like doing something maybe overseas. That's another thing. Just thinking about how the moon can deal with like, yeah, like ships and living abroad expenditures, things like that. So that's another thing that kind of comes up for me with that one, with the moon there. But I could just even see this too as just like someone who I think people would just kind of look towards, someone who people would feel kind of drawn to, like they just know that you just would take care of things, like I think when you think about that archetype of like the sun and the moon, the sun is like the ruler of the people, but the moon is the one that is advocating for the people, so I think that there could be even like a strong, if you find yourself in like a role where you're in like a superior role or reputation, that could be something where maybe there's a that moon in Aries. I could see that again as something that inspires the people in whatever it is that you do in life. So it really is just a matter of what do you feel called to do, and then just kind of nurturing that, letting that be. It's something that you're regularly doing. And even like whatever field that you're doing, this could even be getting like some recognition from superiors possibly for your skills. Like they see like, oh, like look at them, like let's put them in a good role, because like they look how good they meant, are with people. So that could be another thing that could, potentially kind of come up there. But those would be just some kind of like some base things that I would cover with someone with this placement. You definitely need the whole chart to get a feel for how this may be translating for you. But if you have this placement or know someone who's working with this placement, down in the comment section, let us know if this is showing up for you, because I think that it's always really cool to hear those stories and see how these things kind of come to life. I think it's always really fascinating. And if that's something you want to do, if you want to learn more about your planetary placements or learn about your natal chart, or you see any sort of like what are some personalized transits that are going to be coming up for you, or if you plan on doing any sort of like elections, whether that be starting a business, maybe you're going on a vacation, planning, whatever that, planning a marriage, things like that, then down in the description box is a link to book a consultation with me. And if you have any questions about the services that I provide, that information is, my email's down there as well, so definitely feel free to reach out to me. And also there's a couple links down there that also cover. One of them is Celestial News Monthly, which talks about the sun and where the other classical planets are transiting, what signs are going to be most effective, and how to most practically work with those energies. And then the other one is the lunar shenanigans. And especially if you have like a night chart, if you want to get really closely tied in with the moon, the lunar shenanigans goes over the astrology of the moon, what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to go void of course, and just to get a feel of the week as the moon is having these conversations with the celestial bodies and distributing these energies to us. So something to check out there, but that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there, keep raising that vibration through the roof, and I will catch you on the next one.